We're following some breaking news out of Washington where a federal judge has ordered Paul Manafort to be jailed. This comes after the former Trump campaign chairman was accused of witness tampering. Let's get straight to Rikki Klieman. She's our CBS News legal analyst, and she's joining us on the phone. Rikki, there was a possibility that this could happen because of the allegations of witness tampering, and now it appears that it is.
Well, I don't think any of us should be surprised. The allegations of witness tampering, albeit allegations, were substantial. And if there is anything that could be a violation of one's bail conditions, that's certainly it. So I actually would have been shocked if the ruling went the other way.
So can you give us a little more information about these allegations and what it's alleged that he participated in?
Well, what happened, at least according to the government, is that he, while he was out on bail, was with another person, was communicating with potential witnesses of the case to revise their recollection, if you will, of what had gone on between them. And so as a result, if you're going to ask someone to change their testimony, you have a real problem. Now, he can't put up much of a defense to that because a lot of this information that Mr. Mueller allegedly had was in the form of emails. So you're just really, he was doomed today.
And this is not the first time that Special Counsel Robert Mueller has accused him of trying to influence the outcome of the case. He was accused of ghostwriting an op-ed that was meant to at least influence the public, and Mueller was pretty upset about that, too.
Well, I could understand why he might try to influence the public, that might not in any way be a violation of his bail conditions. But nonetheless, when you get to actual witness tampering that is going to affect the integrity of the process within the courtroom, then you really have a problem. So it's one thing to say someone overhears something. It's another thing to have something in writing. And that was also part of the difficulties for Mr. Manafort. One of the problems here that he has always had is that his conduct has been looked at by the government as always trying to skirt the rules, which is a very familiar theme in the special counsel's look at what has gone on. In addition, what you have with witness tampering is you have to really understand that there's a new indictment that accuses Manafort of both obstruction of justice and conspiracy to obstruct justice, along with Konstantin Kilimnik, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, who was a Manafort business partner. And Mueller alleged that he had ties to Russian intelligence, who's also indicted on those charges. So what you wind up with is Manafort in desperation, according to the government. Remember, these are allegations, but it was substantial enough for the judge to believe that this was, there was probable cause to believe that this happened. So when you have Manafort writing, quote unquote, we should talk, and quote unquote, I have made clear that they worked in Europe, which had to do with former European politicians who were part of this lobbying arrangement. And the recipient of the email tells prosecutors about these emails and provides their content because the recipient of the email believes that he's being asked by Manafort to provide false testimony. Well, it's not just Robert Mueller making something up. You've got someone who is a witness who says, wait a minute, I don't want to be in trouble here. I'm talking to the special counsel, and I'm telling him that I was approached to provide false testimony. So there was nothing flimsy about this allegation.
Rikki, the judge in sending Mr. Manafort to jail pending trial, which I think will take place in September, so it's quite a number of months away, says that Mr. Manafort has treated the court proceeding as just another marketing exercise and says you've abused the trust placed in you. Now, I don't know if you were watching President Trump today on the North Lawn of the White House. He was asked about Paul Manafort. The president said that he worked on the campaign for something like 49 days. That's not true. Mr. Manafort worked as a campaign chairman for Donald Trump for over 5 months. The question becomes now, is an opportunity for Paul Manafort to cooperate with the government still on the table, or does that go away because he's going to jail now?
Oh, of course there's still an opportunity to cooperate. Don't we believe that the more harsh the treatment is of Paul Manafort, the more the government's intention is to squeeze Paul Manafort? Paul Manafort would be really a big gold star for Robert Mueller if Robert Mueller could get him to cooperate. He has remained steadfast, that is, Manafort has remained steadfast and recalcitrant, and claims that he will show that when the case is actually tried, that he is innocent of the charges. He has taken a totally inflexible posture, number one, because he could be innocent. We can't forget the presumption of innocence. Number two, because he does not want to be disloyal to President Trump or anyone else, because we don't know that Mr. Trump has ever done anything wrong, but he could want to just be steadfast. There was always, in the good old days, when we used to look at mob prosecutions, that we get the phrase a dirty rat, someone who flips for the government. So there were witnesses who were called stand-up guys in the mob cases, that meaning that they stood up and they never would fold, to use the language, and cooperate. And the third thing that we don't seem to ever talk about is maybe, and this is a pure maybe, we can speculate that Paul Manafort has fears of cooperation, not about any of the people who were involved in the Trump campaign, but perhaps he has fears of cooperation about some of the people he was dealing with who were Russian oligarchs. Yeah. I mean, that would certainly scare a lot of people.
So this allegation of witness tampering, we know that it's why his bond has been revoked, but is this now also an additional charge that he will have to fight in court? Yes,
because the allegations did lead to a new indictment. But that's the least of his worries. What you really are dealing with is he's going to go to jail now, and he's facing trials in multiple jurisdictions, that is both in Washington, D.C. and the Eastern District of Virginia. At some point, we've talked throughout the week about Michael Cohen maybe taking a second look at how much money his legal defense is costing him. At some point, Manafort's money is going to run out, too. I mean, to fight these charges, if you're going to go to trial in both the Eastern District of Virginia as well as in Washington, D.C., I mean, we're talking about huge seven-figure legal fees. And rest assured that you have state prosecutors out there, I am sure, particularly in New York, who are always aware that Paul Manafort could be pardoned by the president, and perhaps they also ought to bring a case in the state court. So at some point, he's going to be broke. So he has a lot of worries, in addition to the fact of if there is a fear of any kind of retribution from the people he may have allegedly been dealing with in Ukraine on behalf of the pro-Russian sector. He's got to be careful in or out of prison. I mean, this is a man who's really in legal jeopardy. Of all of them, he is really, as I would say, in the soup.